We had a devastating fire here on the morning of Friday the 13th, so this is more details I promised from the first video to my viewers, so stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm Jerry Hansen.
And I'm Jeremy Hansen.
We're here kind of like scanning over the devastation of this barn that we lost in a Friday the 14th, 4 a.m. No, it was Friday the 13th, horrible day. 4 a.m. fire that completely destroyed the barn. We had a couple of things I wanted to talk about. All of you are sending your prayers and stuff. We really are touched by your reaching out to us and honoring us with your prayers. And I also want to extend a humble gratitude to Brad and Krista, Big Family Homestead, for featuring us on their Sunday night show and letting their audience know of the tragedy that we suffered. We did lose some livestock. So we're going to answer a couple of questions, and we're going to go over a couple of things that were a couple of fails, and hopefully we can move on.
We strongly suggest the culprit to the fire was the heat lamp, which we had placed several weeks earlier, about 7 weeks prior to the incident, to keep the babies, the piglets, warm. We did keep it far enough away from combustible material, and in mind that it could cause fire.
When I did install that heat lamp, it was far enough away from any combustible material, like the flooring material that surfaced the walls and the other material that could have been combustible. I made sure it was installed far enough away from those to make sure it didn't ignite. Also, it was far enough off the floor that it wouldn't ignite.
Didn't you say a few years ago when you were working with the ducks, the geese, hatchery, you were working with the hatchery, you said a bulb actually burst?
That's right. It's a heat lamp of the same exact type that I had installed over a brooder that I was setting up and preparing for receiving some newly hatched ducklings, and I wanted to get the area warm and ready. And as the heat lamp went on and got hot, I witnessed it suddenly bursting, so the bulb did fail. And I didn't think about it 2 years later, Friday the 14th or Friday the 13th. So this bulb, what's interesting is this lamp was installed a week before the piglets were born. So there it hung on continuously. And then for 6 weeks, because the piglets just turned 6 weeks old Monday, and this is Wednesday. And so for 7 weeks that heat lamp was on, and without fail, so there was no problems until this occurred. So I do strongly suspect it was a fail in the bulb itself. If you notice, you can see the fire still smoldering back in there. So we're not going to be touching anything in here and cleaning anything up until the insurance inspector actually comes. He'll be coming on Tuesday morning, next Tuesday. This is Wednesday now, so hopefully everything will be cold and we'll be able to pick this out and see what the contents of my barn was. I didn't have much in the barn, but I do have video of the day prior to the fire of the interior of the barn, and that way I can see and take inventory of everything that was destroyed. I do have homeowners insurance, and it does cover my outbuilding, so we'll be able to get a new barn, and it does cover the interior, anything that was in the barn. Unfortunately, it doesn't cover the livestock, so I'll just have to take the livestock as a loss on my taxes this year.
When we think of a fire, the first thing we think about doing is putting it out. What we usually put it out with? Water. So we go for the garden hose, except for the garden hose is not really a sufficient source to be able to put out most fires, especially the fire. When we noticed the fire out here in the barn, it was already fully engulfed, and this is what we had at our disposal, but it was not at all effective. Beyond the water pressure, we ran into some other issues. A few other issues we encountered that I'd like to make you aware of for future purposes. One of the main problems he said he encountered was the hose snagging, and as I tried to bring this over for demonstration, it got snagged. He encountered a lot of these kinks, so these little stumps of little trees we'd cut out of the ground but had not completely removed, and they created a problem. This particular hose we had at the end towards the fire is actually prone to kinking. See? You can see it kinks really easy. That hose was connected to a hose that was not prone to kinking. So you have it bends right there, and that one's connected to the water source. As stated in an earlier video, we talked about keeping the areas around your outbuildings clear of underbrush, shrubbery, limbing up the trees, because they are prone to catching fire, as you can see with the tree that's right next to the barn, or the couple of trees next to the barn. They did get fire damage.
So on the morning of Friday the 13th at 4 a.m., I was awoken by a noise outside of my window, so I looked out and saw a glow, ran to the back of the house, looked out my back kitchen window and saw the barn engulfed in flames. I ran to wake my wife up and tell her we're on fire, and then I ran, got my boots on, got my shirt and pants on, and ran out here, grabbed the garden hose and started fighting the fire. I fought the fire from 4 a.m. to about 5 a.m. and I was able to douse the fire, of course, at that point after an hour. As you can see in this this inset video right here, it just took about a half hour for the barn to completely collapse upon itself, and then the fire started reducing. By the time he got home, the barn was a total loss. It was completely collapsed on itself, and he was able to just keep the fire within the footprint of the barn when he got here. I did suffer a little bit of burns on the backs of my hands, the back of my neck, and some on my face, and some smoke inhalation working at the hospital, which I had to leave here at about 5:30 to get to work because I was expected on the floor of the hospital. I sought out a respiratory therapist and got checked out by them for my my inhalation, so everything worked out good there. I managed to complete my shift, with the addition of another horrific event that happened to me personally while at work. So Friday the 13th was a double whammy for me. I'm kind of recovered from that. Now we're moving forward. I did attempt to try to reach in and save some piggies. We got one little piglet that was saved, and he has some burns. We've been treating him, and unfortunately this little guy is imprinting on us. We've named him Smokey Joe. The surviving piggies do have shelter. They have this igloo they can duck under, and they've been going into there. So we're just gradually getting them taken care of, and then we'll move forward.
As you can see, fire can strike at anywhere, at any time. But you will never have a fire. It's never going to hit your homestead. That's what we thought.
I'm Jerry Hansen, your host here at Pine Meadows Hobby Farm.
And I'm Jeremy Hansen.
Thank you for coming to our show. My wife and I are really humbled by the generosity. Also, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave comments. I've been trying to respond to all of your comments, and we'll see you guys again in more videos. Bye-bye. More? Yeah? Want some more? No? You want some more water? I bet you want some more Pedialyte. Here's some more Pedialyte. Oh, it loves that Pedialyte. Oh my goodness. Why don't you come over here outside of your dish? There you go. We got Pedialyte because it'll keep its electrolytes and stuff up. Because of its compromised immunities. Also, because it endured a couple of bad burns, and I'm trying not to show those burns.